Anytime is the
And
right time. What do you got? Just a straight up line in Kugels?
well,
The original? Does
yeah,
it say original?
that's
Just
like
delightful.
that was a bottom of the cooler beer. Like we scrubbed some grit and some sticky shit off of it. So
oh, you reach into the cooler.
no,
It was nose goes, and I got this one.
Did you go to the fridge or the cooler?
I said
They're
you
right
got
by each other.
Oktoberfest, a pumpkin beer, which pumpkin and beer do not belong. I'm just gonna throw
There's
that
one
out
that's
there.
like 10% alcohol
Unless
by
you're
volume.
a
It's pretty
basic
strong.
white bitch and maybe you're
Well,
into
that pumpkin beer will get you drunk as shit.
I don't care. It's still pumpkin and beer don't belong.
Mm-hmm.
Plain and simple. And then there's like 4 different types of Oktoberfest or Busch Light Apple.
So did you get that from the fridge?
And
or
we're
the
not
cooler?
college kids,
Fridge.
so we're not doing the
There's a
Busch Light
cooler
Apple.
beer out there too in the half rack cooler. That's your goodie bag right there.
What?
Ooh.
He is hiding the stuff.
Is that
There's
for
more
St. Nick? Is that
options.
we each get one from St. Nick? A
From
meat
St.
lug full of
meat
beer?
lug full of beer?
So deer camp leftovers. There's a bunch of bush lattes in there.
Oh, okay. So they're partially warm then.
No, they're cold out
I
there.
have a cooler full of Busch lattes in my basement right now, too. They're not cold.
See? Oh, well, what the heck? Let's do this. You guys ready?
Yeah, hit play.
We're ready. We're doing it.
This is the Okayest Hunter podcast. Never pass on shooter bucks, 'cause that's just meat in the freezer. It's your tag. You hunt how you want. This is Okayest Hunter.
Woo-wee. We only have one more episode to go this year, and it's next week.
Ooh, really? Yeah, I suppose. Holy crap.
Good news train's coming through. Woo woo!
I could use a good news train.
Unlike that movie with the brain cells, what's that one called? Inside Out. More bad news. Woo woo! The angry guy.
I don't know that one.
Inside Out. Oh, it's great. It's a great movie. Anywho, we're not here to talk about that. Well, we could be. We'll talk about anything on this show. I don't know what to say, guys.
How about epic failures?
Yeah, we could do that.
1, 2, 3. Yep, we got him.
Oh, I think I'm taking the cake this year, guys.
I don't know, buddy.
The antithesis of an epic failure is half rack. Go to halfrack.com. Use code OHP.
I've seen a few of those this year.
I would take one right about now.
and I even had one blow at me.
Last week on the show, you guys were cutting up deer. It's nice to have you here.
Yeah.
I don't have another word to rhyme with right now, but
Should have been cutting up another one.
Yeah, well, what do you do?
What are you gonna do? Yeah. What happened?
Suck.
You shot at one.
Classic
Huh?
case of we
Very-
just shit the
I
bed.
hit one, yeah.
Was it a good one, a bad one, an okay one?
A buck? It was
Yeah.
good. It was a good one.
Was it one of the ones you thought you may have been
I'm not sure.
seeing?
I'm not really sure. It happened pretty fast. I
How
just
far
know,
away?
I know it was good. Well, the whole story is kind of like, man, opportunity missed. We did some drives. Greg came out. We did some
Mhm.
drives in the morning. We hit, what did we do? 2 different properties while you were there?
We put together, 2 or 3 drives on one. It was 2 drives on the first property.
Yep.
And then we were kind of running out of real estate because all of a sudden there's people everywhere.
Yeah, a lot of bird hunters in there.
Yep.
Which is cool.
Which is great, but didn't help the cause a whole lot, unfortunately.
We had a lot of drivers driving things where we weren't anticipating
they were
being
driving-
driven.
Yeah, they were driving them a different direction, which, that's going to happen. It's public land. It's what it's there for.
Yeah, so then Greg had to go off and take care of some business at home, and
Mhm.
me and the other 3 guys went to a different property. And shout out to, I think, Muskie Hunter
Yeah.
on
Yeah,
Instagram.
he was messaging me. I was like, I'm not out there, but like,
we pulled,
Greg's like, what? What's happening? I was like, oh, you're not there anymore? I thought you were there.
we pulled into the parking lot at one of the spots, and I looked over. There was one truck there, so I was trying to figure out if it was like deer hunting or hiking
what
or
are they
whatever
doing?
they were doing. And they had a My Tag My Hunt sticker, and I was like, hey, look at that! I was like, that guy's got an Okayest Hunter sticker, and so we went out there, and those guys ended up bird hunting, but Bo and Scott and Bo and Scott ran into them on the trail, and they were talking to them, where have you guys been? What have you been up to? And they saw Bo's GoPro and said, hey, are you guys filming for something? And he's like, yeah, for Ghost Bucks and Okayest Hunter. And they're like, you're not the Okayest Hunter guys. So they were like defending us, like, hey, you're not them.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Which is pretty awesome.
Imposter. You smell of beef and cheese. He's a cotton-headed ninny muggins.
Cotton-headed ninny.
Two-headed bush shaker.
Two-headed bush shaker.
That too.
Yeah, so we messed around over there, and Bo, we got like a, I don't know, we're calling it a 2-year-old, but it's a real scrub rack little buck. Adam pushed him right out of the bedding, came like 10 yards from him. He had the hammer back, but he's like, I couldn't make you guys drag that little thing out of where we were because it would have been tough.
Treacherous.
Then our buddy Scott had to go, so the last drive of the day, we ended up not even to drive. Adam, Bo, and I spread out, and we just stayed about 100 yards apart and just kind of did a little still hunt push. And I don't know, we got to this one spot, and there was a big trail cutting across. I was the furthest out into the marsh. Then Bo was kind of hitting the transitions of like buckthorn, and Adam was closer to the woods edge. So that way, if anything was squirting, we thought we had it covered. And I got to a spot where the grass just changed a little bit, and there was a nice run going in there. And I just had this weird feeling. I was like, I just need to like stop and listen for a little while, because I just felt like Bo was gonna, I don't know, I just felt like something was gonna happen. It's really weird, just intuition. So I literally like put my thumb on the hammer. I don't know why, but like I took a couple steps off to the side and I just waited. I could hear Bo busting through phragmites or phragmites, whatever you call them. And all of a sudden I heard a deer get up right between us, and the thing started barreling, and he yells, "Buck, big buck, big buck." And I cocked the hammer back, and I kind of was watching to see it come out, and it came out, and right away I saw a rack, and I was like, oh, that's a good one. And I got my scope on it right away, but it kind of just filled my scope. Like he was pretty close, and it was all phragmites, and there's like grass between him and I, and like it just, my scope was full, and I saw brown, but I didn't pull because I didn't know where I was. So I just waited, and he kind of like ran out into the shorter grass.
Tried to play smart. Safe.
Yep. And I let him get out to like 60, and I'm trying to follow him, but really it's all ice underneath. So he wasn't like bounding. He was just like, like hurrying. So he wasn't like coming up at all. I could just see the top of his back going. I'm kind of picking, and I let him a little bit, and I shot. I had no idea. Like, smoke goes.
Yeah, you don't know.
No clue. I can't hear it. My ears are ringing. I can't hear if he's still going. So I yelled at Bo. I'm like, listen for him, and Bo comes over, and I explained what happened, show him where I shot. He's like, yeah, I did hear him go a little ways after you shot, but I didn't hear him go far. And I was like, I have no clue if I hit him or not. Walk over there, and I found blood right where I shot. I was like, all right, we got blood. We were all excited. So we were spread out, kind of like thinking if he's, went down or bedded down, let's get another shot because it's getting close to dark. And we followed the trail. Adam found some blood. Bo found some blood, and then we found a chunk of muscle. And the blood wasn't like good blood the whole way. My first thought when I saw the blood,
red?
It was bright red, and it was a little watery.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is muscle blood. It's my first, the blood Adam found was decent looking, but then we both found a big puddle of it. And then we found a chunk of muscle. And we didn't find any blood after that. And we kind of did some circles, and I went to some spots that I thought he might be, and covered about 300 yards after the shot. So if it was,
you would have found
something fatal. And it just didn't look great. So I think I ended up hitting him through the front, maybe through like
brisket,
base of the neck, brisket stuff, something like that.
Man.
So yeah, another opportunity with the gun. Blown.
Speaking of missed opportunities, let's bring in our guest.
That's a hell of an entrance.
What an entrance.
Yeah, we got basement decorator Thomas Stamper on, aka Thomas the Train is what I'm going with.
Yeah.
But, Thomas, I swipe, I don't know, whatever direction is the right direction on the Deer Tinder app called TikTok, and you and me became besties for a hot minute. I'm pretty sure we've had a lot of drunk live sessions together.
Yeah. I think it was at my brother's bachelor party the last time.
One of them.
So.
You were pretty drunk for that. I was like, wow, he's really running around the bachelor party with his phone right now, live on TikTok.
Bad idea.
There's a group of us on there. We're like, man, he's drunk.
Yeah, Corey got on your show after that. That's when I was like, what the hell? I like
my invite. I was like, I'm pretty sure I've invited you. It just hasn't happened yet.
You give a man a bachelor party and some alcohol, and he's got a good time happening right then and there.
Waiting for
you give him some technology. It's all going to go to hell in a handbasket.
Corey the next day was like, do you know what all you said? I was like, no, and I don't want to know. So
I don't know either. Don't worry. I don't remember. I forgot to do the thing so you guys can see him here. I'll get that going while you guys. Why don't you, Thomas, introduce yourself, man? Tell us what you're all about with Basement Decorator, what you got going on, and all that. Where you're from, all that stuff.
Yeah, so I'm from North Carolina. Basement Decorator started in my basement. It was 2019, I think it was, and I'd always wanted to do something with hunting, and my wife won't let me put my deer upstairs, so I think we all probably live that dream. But but so it was funny. I got to give her a lot of credit though. I was like, I don't want to be like something outdoors or something hunting. She was like, well, what do you think about when you walk up to a deer? And I said, well, the first thing I think about is what's he going to look like on the basement wall? She goes, well, you're the basement decorator.
There you go.
And I was like, you know what? It's stupid enough that it might work. So
For a second, I thought you were like a basement remodel. I was like, oh, maybe this guy's a rec room. I think when
well,
I first crossed you were like, no, there's a deer logo going on here. Something else is happening.
Yep.
yeah. So it's funny because when I first started following y'all, it was back when you had the Okius Hunter thing. It was the like I think it was 3 years ago or whatever. But no, I've always enjoyed watching y'all stuff and love sending reels back and forth with Greg and of course going on lives drunk with Eric. So that's
that's my brother-in-law's ex-girlfriend that did that sound effect. So I felt like it should probably get retired.
It's sunsetted.
And people it either really pissed people off or they liked it, and I was fine with both. Either way, you're not forgetting it anytime soon.
Yeah. Well, cheers, by the way. I didn't get a
yeah,
chance to join in the ritual.
What's on over there? What are you drinking on? What are you drinking on?
Cheers, buddy.
There it is.
So this is out of North Carolina. It's called Defiant Whiskey. It's in the mountains of North Carolina. It's pretty good local distillery. I like to buy local. So
Nice.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, Calder said him with the OKS Hunter sound effects. I don't think I have it on here. I don't think it's on this. I didn't migrate over to this.
The old one?
Yeah. I think Greg might have it. So
No, it's not on.
Oh, it's not on that one either. Wow.
I thought y'all were based out of Oklahoma when I first heard it. I was like, Okiest Hunter. I was like, and then I was like, oh, Okayist. I get it now.
The Okiest.
Okiest. Yeah, we could be the Okiest. I remember texting my brother, I'm like, can you do like a really like border Wisconsin / Uper Okayest Hunter? And so he did. I was like, yeah, it's fine. I was like, but I'd rather have it be a girl. I think it'll get less flack if it's a girl. So then 2 seconds later, his girlfriend at the time did it. And I was like, this is it. I don't need anything else. Thanks. Should bring it back. We should redo it. Anywho, dude, thanks for joining the podcast. Look at all those bucks behind you, Basement Decorator. So we know you can kill them and shoot them. And you can decorate with them. What happened this year? Let's talk about missed opportunities. That's today's.
I think that, it's funny. I was listening to y'all when I was in the back room, and I think that's why I love hunting, because no matter how good you think you are, no matter how good last season was, the woods always humbles you. I mean, it just comes out and smacks you in the face. Anytime you get proud, anytime you get confident, it just says, hey, I'm in charge.
Preach.
Yeah, buddy.
So, and I think that's honestly what keeps me going back. Like this year, Missouri, we were in day 3. I had a deer that I was chasing that we called Baby Achilles.
Oh, that's cool.
He was mega giant. And I actually had him at 19 yards the second day, but he had a twig in the way and another buck came in and he went and fought him. He ran off. And then there was a deer I actually passed the first day that we called Browse. And I passed him. He was at like 25 yards. I didn't get a great look at him. I could have shot him. But the third day, the rut just kind of let loose. I think it was November 4th. So it was really starting to get going. And he was dogging a doe. He was grunting. He was snort wheezing. And the doe brought him right to 14 yards. And right when he got in shooting position, he kind of quartered away. Well, anyone who's ever bow hunted much knows if they're quartering away, where do you want to hit them? Back rib.
Yep, back rib. You want to hit him further back. Aim for the opposite front leg.
Yeah, so we were filming, and this was the first year I had a 4K camera, so it was really cool because the footage, there was no doubt. And there was 4 guys that I was hunting with, and we all watched footage. I backed out for 4 hours, and we all said I smoked him. And so we went back and talked about being cocky. I was already like running my mouth and drinking whiskey and doing things I shouldn't be doing. And we get to the first spot, and there was blood splattered everywhere. And I was like, okay, he's dead. So we start walking. We find this big pool of blood. It's spraying out both sides. We get to the 100-yard mark, and it just stops. And I just my heart sunk. I was like, this is not good. And So we found another blood bed about 50 yards away. And I just immediately said, you know what, back out. So I Googled drone recovery, and there was a guy based out of Missouri. It's called Missouri Drone Recovery, actually. And he came in and he was very thorough. We were able to look for miles. I mean, it's crazy what they can do. They can zoom in on a deer and go, is that your deer in the dark? They have a spotlight and a camera that zooms in. And we looked at every deer in the woods and never found him. So I went back the next day, looked again. And, the crazy thing is there's nothing I would have changed about the shot. I hit him exactly where I was aiming and it just didn't happen. I mean, I did use a new broadhead for the first time. So that broadhead is in the dumpster currently, but
it's almost like Dark Saddle, unfortunately, but it's okay. We've rectified that situation.
We're friends again.
yeah.
I probably would have done the same thing with the broadhead though.
Yeah.
I want to ask the Brandis. I don't want to.
Well, and it was one I knew not to use, but somebody convinced me to try it. And why I tried it there, I mean, my past 13 deer in a row, I found within 50 yards. So why would you change?
An Indian people kill them with stones that they would chisel themselves. Like you can kill them. Most modern tech broadheads, I feel like, should do the job.
Yeah. So yeah.
Sorry about that, man. That's always tough.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. And then like today, my brother calls me at lunch and he says, I shot the biggest buck of my life. He's a relatively new hunter. And we get out there and looked forever and didn't find it. So he's out there with a drone guy right now. So
well, fingers crossed for him.
Yeah, hopefully he finds it.
It's interesting.
Yeah.
With a gun, it's I mean, I don't know. The range is further, it's very lethal, but
You're
the intel
you're delivering more shock.
You get you don't get the arrow to tell you the story about like what's on the fletchings, what's on the arrow, what did I hit. You get a point of impact, some blood, hopefully, and then beyond that, it's kind of like track and see what happened. Unless you get to see it go down if it was a really good shot. But I mean, the nice thing about gun is you get range, so it gives you a little bit more reach out and poke someone kind of essence. But then that gives new challenges, especially in big woods. Like where I shot the little 8-point here, that's like a 100-yard shot, but sitting there didn't seem or feel like 100 yards. You walk over like, oh shit, where was the point of impact? Suddenly everything gets really confusing when you walk far enough away from your spot. I think.
No, I agree.
Well, especially if you have other deer around, like you were looking at that doe too, and you're going. As soon as you took your attention off of where you shot at the buck, you're watching the doe, going, should I not? What do I do? She took off, And then you're going, well, which trees was he between? I know he was over there. Where did I shoot? Was it here or was it there? Yeah. You don't know. And if you don't see the deer fall because there's too many trees in the way, that's another unknown.
Yeah, I've had that happen before. They
Saturday,
I'm like, what's happened?
That buck that I shot at Saturday was tricky, and it was only one direction because like he ran out and then he's running horizontally. So like I shot, and then you're like trying to watch, but like luckily there was trees off in the far distance, and there was like one tall one. I was like, all right, you just left of that tall one. So I had like a left and right marker.
It was just
but
grass,
then you get out there and it's grass, and I'm like, well, there's like 20 trails.
Yeah,
which one was he on?
on?
Like, so that was even tricky, and I knew which, right or left, which way he was and stuff.
Kind of cool when you're filming a little bit because you get to, like when we were tracking that doe off the river that one time, if it wasn't for the GoPro footage,
we wouldn't have known.
But I was like, no, she went this way, because we could see it.
Mm-hmm.
And
then we did find some blood, and then
that never went well.
Yeah, it never did go well.
Who knows what happened there? That was
that happened to my. Go ahead.
No, you're good.
I was just going to say that happened to my brother today. So when we went up and we were looking at the first blood, he goes, there was a deer that ran this way and a deer that ran this way. And I was like, well, which one was yours? And he was like, I think it was this one. And I'm like, okay. But,
that's crazy, man.
So Thomas, you had your shot on camera, you said. Were you able to tell what happened? Did it deflect at all, or did it like hit that rib and kind of veer, or did that not really tell you?
So we were able to slow it down and we were able to zoom in, and you could even tell that the broadhead deployed vertically, which on a quartering away shot is better, because if you're going to go through that rib cage, 2 inches deployed vertically should, I hit him center mass, so that was fine. I hit him, it was lung, at least liver, and you could even see the arrow exit. It looked like near the shoulder, on the back shoulder. So like, it just made no sense. It was one of those things where you just had to go, that's bow hunting. And I hate that because there's been no closure. We've kept all the cell cams running there. He has not shown up on camera. I have a theory of what I think happened. I think what happened is I think he died. I think he died pretty quickly. And that morning, we were probably 30 yards off the property line. There's a relatively new neighbor to the west of his property. And we saw him driving in that morning on a Ranger, and I could hear him. He was one of those hunters that just rattled and grunted all morning. And, I don't want to blame anyone for anything that I don't know for sure happened, but I have a feeling that he could see everything. And I just wonder if that deer died and it got taken. I really think that could have happened because he had 7 to 8 inch brow tines. He was like a super cool looking buck. So I don't know. I'm grasping at this point, but I mean, I had another close call in North Carolina this year. So
I had a clean miss on public this year. I'm happy for the clean miss, to be quite frank.
Yeah.
But it's still not great. And it actually ended up being a blessing in disguise because of what walked out 2 hours later. And then I didn't get that one either. I didn't even get to draw back on that one. This is a season ripe with
opportunity.
Lots of opportunities. So you can't be disappointed about it. But I will say, like, the whole hit track not fine, that's
tough.
That's a hard one to bear.
That's a lot of time and resources used and nothing gained.
You found a buck on public that had clearly been shot.
Yeah, hit high and forward. He was just, you look at the placement of that shot, it's like
would have been hard.
You knew they were up elevated high to hit that deer high like that, and they probably came in close and they quick pulled and they settled in, and they settled in just a bit too high. They didn't maybe pivot at the hips. They didn't aim low enough. They thought, well, it's good enough. Should be able to send it right there. Well, it's forward of the lungs, it's forward of the heart, and it's below the spine, just maybe 6 inches below the spine, and it went through. Well, if we, were able to figure out where exactly that arrow was going, it missed all the goods. It got one lung for sure because the deer died.
It had
it's
to have
dead.
got a lung.
It got a lung and the deer died.
Depending on the angle, it could have got
some
sort of artery running up the neck too, or you know what I mean? Like
it almost looks like it was a artery hit.
I think they would have found him unless did the arrow pass through? Yeah,
it was a pass through. Yeah, there's a hole on the other side.
But
just
it's
a
like
little bit
maybe it was
lower
raining, or like something. Maybe it's another deer that confused him.
That high,
it's crazy.
That's a lot of blood to try and fill that body cavity for it to leak out. Unless that deer were to dig hard and run and do something to squirt blood out, and that stuff. If he was shooting them back in the cattails, that stuff absorbs blood real fast. Especially if it just hit water or any of the moss that's in there, it'll suck that stuff right up. The only chance he had is if that deer was running through cattails and he was brushing up against all the cattails on the way through, and clearly was not. Or it was just a hunter that didn't have a lot of tracking skill. But that deer made it. He didn't go to water. He didn't go to water at all because the river's the other direction.
Kind of went the opposite way you'd assume a deer would go.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why he didn't get found.
Yeah, he went to high ground.
High open ground close to a house.
Yeah, I mean, the people.
I eat off your bird feeder. Can you let me in?
Yeah,
I've been shot.
Like the back door.
Help me out here. Wilma, come on now.
Right.
You've been good to me all season.
The people, I don't know how the people didn't see him, but
well, that's just it.
Right from the house.
There's so many other variables and things that take place. My dad shot I think it's a 15-point, huge deer on a lease that my uncle has, and it haunted him forever. He shot it, couldn't find it. And there was another deer in the area, so I think that deer confused them. Then it rained, blood trail dried up, never found it. My dad was sick to his stomach about it for months. I mean, like, call me just in anguish talking about it. And then my cousin was shed hunting the property the following spring, and they found it, like not far from where it should have probably died, where they were like right on it when they were looking, but just not seeing it because of cattails. And it was in this marshy stuff, and based on where it was at, it was preserved pretty well. Like the mice didn't get to it or anything like that, or the squirrels. And then my cousin confirmed it was my dad's arrow because he used an aluminum, whatever it was, and it was his arrow broke off in there. And so, yeah, it's Chuck's buck. And so my dad got it mounted, but like never got to tag it, never got to, it probably would have made the books and all this stuff.
Wow.
Not that that matters
Still good to
necessarily,
have
but
closure,
like he had
though.
closure.
Just finding it is a huge thing.
So that's it happened. I had a deer I shot gun season a number of years back. The one that is behind Greg I've talked about, the one that my buddy Joel sniffed out of the woods. And enough things just kind of happened in such a way that made me believe something else happened than what actually happened. And then where he found him, it all eventually made sense when we kind of played it out. But like there was another hunter that was in the area. One of our hunting party friends, or my buddy's brother, was across the ridge from me. He's like, "Oh yeah, I definitely heard it here." But then I heard something over there. And we saw this other hunter and we heard a shot. And then we were just like, "Oh, he must have shot it and went that way." And that hunter disappeared. And we're like, "Well, maybe he went to go track it." And then we were just assumed it was done until my buddy Joel found it. Yeah. So it's like, what the, and it was definitely the buck. All 3 of my rounds were in it. All 3. Just laying them down.
That's back when ammo was cheap.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Anyway, like, I think some people will walk across a deer like that and they'll say, "Man, what a shame, stupid hunters, or you're not, how could they, well, come on. I think we've all been there."
Tonight, walking out, I went muzzleloader hunting real quick after work tonight, and I'm walking out and it's about dark, but I'm going down a tiny little trail and a strip of thick buckthorn. So there's like one little area they walk through. Find this much of a broken arrow laying in the trail.
Imagine that.
Fletching's got gut on it, probably sticking out of the deer. Deer runs through that little thicket, snaps off. I just, immediately when I saw that, I was like, somebody's heart is probably broken.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like
some deer's dead somewhere.
Some deer's dead somewhere, and the guy
really
probably
hurting.
doesn't have it.
Yeah.
Happens. Sucks.
It sucks.
This is a very depressing episode. I'm very sorry for all the listeners here that are tuning in. We got a few folks watching live. If you want to call, I'll put the number on the screen too. We can always invite some callers. And if you got a story to share, geez, just blending.
Let's talk about what's coming.
Let's talk. I was just going to say that. What do you got going on? What are you looking forward to now?
So I've got a buck in North Carolina. He's the biggest buck I've ever.
Thomas, I was going to say fishing. I'm sorry. I'm just kidding.
Do what? Fishing?
Yeah. Fishing.
Yeah.
No, go ahead.
I'm not a very good fisherman. But this buck in North Carolina that I've got, this property is only 40 acres. So there's a lot of property line issues and stuff like that. But he has just been on camera constantly all season. So I don't like hunting one buck. I don't suggest it. It's thoroughly depressing and frustrating. But have you ever had it happen where you just get so sucked in, that's all you can think about? And like, I passed a deer the other night that any other year in North Carolina, I would have been okay with. I mean, he was probably 120-inch 8-pointer. But I didn't even grab my gun. I was like, what am I doing? But I'm just after this one deer, and I think I'm running 11 cell cams on 40 acres. So
covered.
So if he moves, I know it. But this property's an hour from me, so it's not like I can just hop in the backyard and go shoot him, for all the cell cam haters out there. But you know how they are.
Everyone hates something, man. Let me tell you. Apparently, you cannot butcher your own deer either.
No. I mean, gosh, for heaven forbid you be a freaking father and get home to your kids after shooting a deer.
It only takes 2 hours, Eric. You clearly don't know who you're talking to. You think it's going to take me 2 hours. Let me just say, Jesus.
But no, I'm headed back to West Virginia this weekend. I joined a 11,000 acre lease in a bow only county in West Virginia, and it's fascinating because these deer look like Midwest deer. The bucks are like 270 pounds, and it's the county we're in. It's cliffs, it's mountains. So like one of my spots, I have an hour-and-a-half ranger ride to get to it up in the mountain, and there's black bears everywhere. Saw bobcats, seen coyotes everywhere, and the deer are just massive. And we had a close call when I was there a couple of weeks ago, and somehow I talked my wife into going back. So I'm leaving Saturday, and I'll be there for 5 days. So
wow, we should be talking about your real skill then, which is negotiating.
Must be a real nice Christmas present coming.
Yeah. And then I'm finishing up my season. I'll be in my cousin owns a ranch in South Texas.
Cool.
And I go there every year, and if I die, that's where I want to go. That's where I want to be buried. South Texas this is not high fence. It's, wild free range deer, and it's unreal how many, like, I even hate putting scores on deer just because I could care less what a deer scores. If it makes you happy, freaking shoot it. But you'll have 10 140s in front of you, and you don't even think about grabbing your bow. That's how good South Texas is. So
I don't know. Insanity. He put a 140. I start dropping shit pretty quick.
Yeah. Oh, the first year I went, I didn't know what to shoot. For a North Carolina boy that had never seen a 130, I was like, what do I do? Every deer is the biggest. Well, it's the biggest deer I've ever seen.
Oh, that's cool. Hey, we got a caller, Thomas. Do you want to take some calls with us?
Yeah, sure.
I know who it is though, too. So it's a pretty cool call coming through. Hey, Clay, you're live on the podcast, man. How you doing?
Hey, what's going on?
Long time no talk on here. You got some news to report?
I know. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, kinda. Yeah. What do you got? Do you got some fun stuff to share with us?
Yeah. So I got this is Clay, and I've got my nephew Charlie with me, and he killed his first big buck this week or last weekend, I guess.
Hey, congratulations! So I don't know if you want to hear the story or not.
Yeah. This is a good reprieve from our depressing topic, so let's lighten the mood a little bit.
Yeah, congrats, Charlie. Let's hear it.
So I got there about 2:00. The afternoon was pretty slow. I saw a couple does and stuff, but watching this doe in her fawn, I see these big white horns coming out from behind this hay bale. And I was like, oh goodness. And then he starts to herd around this little doe fawn, and I grab my rattling antlers, and I rattle really loud, and I grab the grunt call, and I go, rant, rant, and I do a doe bleat, and he looks up and starts to run across the field. He was about 150 yards, and then he came into 50 and started to get suspicious, and I smoked him.
Oh,
that's awesome.
That's awesome, man.
That's great.
That's great.
You grunt and rattle him in, man. What did that feel like?
The whole kitchen sink right there.
Holy cow.
Finished with the doe bleat. I love it.
Nice.
He died a happy buck. That's great, man. Congratulations. How old are you, Charlie?
I'm 11.
Killer,
cool, man.
11-year-old killer.
You're gonna have to have Clay send a picture of that to us so we can see your cool buck you got, man.
Yeah, there's one in Eric's inbox right now on his phone.
I don't know if I can share my screen with that or not. I don't have enough tech. Well, maybe I do. We'll see.
That's all right. We'll send it in so you can post it. We're doing the Euro right now. We're just sitting out here by a boiling pot.
Cool.
That's awesome, dude.
That's great.
That's pretty cool. Well, congratulations.
He killed a doe early in the year. That was cool. And then he passed a bunch of deer. He made the choice, no pressure or anything like that. He just chose to not shoot some deer. He liked this deer. He'd been watching him, had some trail camera footage of him. It was pretty awesome.
Wow. Sweet. What an accomplishment. Great job, Charlie.
You're doing a year amount? You're doing a year amount, Charlie?
Yep.
That's a great way to go. They look real nice. Let me tell you. We like the Euro mounts. Nice and clean.
And they're a lot cheaper.
Big one.
Yeah, they are.
Like a nice big Euro. It looks, I don't know, bigger.
It does. Indeed. It does make the rack look bigger. That's cool.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah.
Well, hey, fellas, thanks for letting us tell our story here. We'll hop off and let you get back to it.
Yeah, appreciate it, man. We'll have to get you in the Shooter Buck Club on Facebook if you're on there. If you haven't join and share the post there. We'd love to see it there too.
Yes.
Congrats.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, guys. Have a good one.
Thanks for calling.
That's cool.
That's awesome. The fact that we can take calls just to hear. I don't think we got a lot of kids call in.
No. That's great.
He told the story really well too.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
You know what I loved is,
and then I smoked him.
Yeah. I love the fact that he hit him with a rattle, then he grunted, and then he bleated. And none of us would have ever done all three of those.
No, certainly not.
He painted the picture for him right there.
the whole time.
I'm going to do all 3 tomorrow night when I go. See if it happens.
The Charlie special, you call that?
Yep.
Eric likes the 2-handed bushwhacker. You give him a little motion with that.
Yeah.
We got another caller. The auto screen didn't work on this one, but I think they're local. So maybe it's your drunk buddy. Maybe it's one of mine. I don't know.
Let's find out.
You're live on the podcast. Who do we got?
What's going on? It's Joel.
Oh, it's Joel. What the heck, Joel?
The deer sniffer.
The deer sniffer.
It says Belvedere Snapper. So I didn't know what to make of that.
I don't know what that was.
Thought you said the auto screen wasn't working. It worked. It worked fine. He just led you off a different. He led you off the center of the trail.
Enunciate your name, okay?
Well, it says say your name, so I said Joel the deer sniffer. So I don't know how I came up with that.
Belvedere sniffer. I get it.
Belvedere Snapper is what it says.
Snap.
I was like,
okay.
I was like, this might be a prank call.
Congrats to Charlie. That's freaking awesome.
Yeah.
He's got more experience than I got already.
Oh, that's cool. Do you anything for Thomas here, our guest on the line?
Oh, geez, I kind of lost track of where I was talking. I got sidetracked with Charlie's deer story about smoking that deer, and I completely brain farted now.
All right, Joe.
I did have something I originally called for, but I heard that, I was like, oh, that's so awesome. You know, I think, yeah.
Joel's gonna come walking through his door in a minute.
It's like, man, he's gonna remember that. That's one of those epic moments that, like, you know, he's gonna kill tons of deer throughout his life, I'm sure, but that one's gonna stick with him.
Yeah, I'm sure.
So I've only grunted in one buck ever, and that was, you know, shooting it across the field, and I shot it, and then I saw another one across the field, and I tried grunting, but he wouldn't come more than halfway across the field, and I couldn't figure out why. It's because the other deer was laying out in the field, and he wouldn't come any closer.
Yeah.
He ran around like a thicket of trees and dropped, and I didn't see where he went. So I'm like, oh, no. And then I saw this other deer. I'm like, well, see if I can get 2, you know, and he never came in all the way, but that was the only time I've ever successfully grunted in a deer. You know, it wasn't something big monster or anything like that, but it was still pretty cool to watch them come in and bob their heads up and down. But
I can't say I've ever.
Yeah, I completely got sidetracked with Charlie's story, so I got squirreled.
That's right, man. Well, you were there when I shot the buck on the wall here in our basement decoration. I wouldn't say I grunted him in.
Yeah.
I mean, kind of, but I didn't grunt him away. But I definitely grunted.
Yeah, true.
And I killed him. So I don't know how you want to like stack up those.
I'm not gonna lie. When I saw that deer, I got
happened.
excited. I looked over and I saw that. You know, I smelt him. And I got down on my knees and I'm looking. Like, also, I see this like little white tuft in the what do you call it? That buckthorn or whatever that is. And I was like, oh my gosh, there's a deer there. And I just sat there and was waiting, like thinking I was gonna spook him up or he was bedded down. And I just started getting closer and closer. And then I realized, oh, it's dead. Oh, that's probably Eric's deer. So
yeah,
that was pretty cool. That was an epic moment. That was just kind of a pure luck thing that I happened to be downwind of it. So.
It wasn't 2 minutes before that I put on my vest and then the phone rings. I found your deer. So that's why we wear vests when we go hunting. It's all about the traditional luck.
Yeah. I think I've jinxed it because I've double vested and now I'm not getting nothing. So,
you can't double vest.
It's like a double negative now. But you guys were successful. That's what matters. It's all about the group party and having fun and the camaraderie and stuff. It's not about like how big a buck I got. It was just the fact that everyone got to have some fun and everyone gets a little bit of meat going home and just, you know, everyone kind of rotates through and gets some meat one year. The next year, the other guy gets one.
Yeah, we share too. Depending who gets in one now, we try to share the meat, spread the love.
Yeah.
Spread your
meat
meat out.
Sounding pretty weird to say spreading the meat and love in one sentence, but you guys know what we mean.
You get some meat. You get some meat.
You want some meat? You want some meat, huh? Yeah.
Spreading the meatloaf, yes.
All right, Joel. Thanks for the call, buddy.
Of course. Guys, take care.
See you, Joel.
All right,
Later.
see you, Belvedere Snapper. All right, Thomas.
You know, I was just thinking about something. Kids like that are what we fight for, right?
Yeah.
You know, to hear that story, I'm sitting here bitching about not finding a deer. I'm bitching about not being able to get a deer. You know, you can find so much wrong, but the woods are perfect. And we fight against all the griping, all the complaining, all the bitching, all the naysayers on TikTok. Like I can't tell you how many people I just, because of kids like that, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And
hearing a child voice on this podcast lightened my soul.
Oh yeah.
It's
We all lit up when he started talking.
Oh,
I
yeah.
saw it.
man,
great.
it makes me think of like on social or whatever, like you hear there's people who complain about the youth hunt and their target deer getting shot because these kids get to go out with guns and like there are people who complain about it, but like it's easy to complain about it because you didn't get that chance. Like Thomas was saying, we're all bitching that we didn't get our whatever, but to hear and to like if you heard that kid talk about that experience
the chance
they
any
had,
time of the day,
you would give it up 100,000 times to let that kid have an opportunity. Like that's
if your ego is so big that you can't let a kid win over yourself,
get the hell out of here.
You don't belong here.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, hunting is so much more fun when you share it with someone, when you share it with a kid, when you teach a kid how to hunt. And I'll give you a great example. It's not a kid story, but last year there was this buck that I was chasing who at the end of the season, I saw a Facebook picture and I was like, I know that is the buck that I was chasing in North Carolina. So I reached out to the guy, found out that he was literally like 2 properties over from where I was hunting. And we have exchanged trail cam photos. We have been very transparent with each other when we see, where the deer are going. And there's just no jealousy there. Like I had a deer this summer, really big buck that ended up moving to the beans on his property. He got him and I celebrated it. I celebrated with him. I mean, there shouldn't be jealousy. You should be able to work with other hunters and, have fun with it.
Absolutely. You got a whole community around you in your neighborhood and you just got to, share the wealth and share the knowledge sometimes. And I get it, loose lips sink ships. If you're after a certain deer and you have the ability to chase that deer through all the properties, then fine. But if your border ends 20 yards away from your tree stand, you've lost it. It's somebody else's deer. That deer is not owned by anybody. It's got more freedoms than all of us. Yep. It can trespass and it doesn't get in trouble for it.
Damn deer, Greg. Let me tell you what.
As soon as it leaves your property, it's not. You have no rights to it whatsoever.
Well, like in West Virginia, you can manage deer. There's 11,000 acres. So if you pass a buck, there's a relatively good chance that, if he makes it through the harsh winter, you'll see that buck next year. But like the property I'm talking about just a minute ago, that's 40 acres. So if you think on 40 acres, that deer is living there and only there, you're crazy.
Right.
So it just doesn't happen.
Well, I think that's a good, what you mentioned is a good point about that's what we fight for. That's what we're like trying to preserve and make sure that, and the one thing I add to that, and we have another caller in line, so I'll bring someone on here in a minute, but is like this concept of who do you think spends the most time on social media? It's teenagers and kids. They're on there in droves. They make up like I work in, marketing. So it's like, well, I don't want to advertise on that app. It's all young people. Well, okay. Well, sure. Let's just pretend that it's all young people then. And they're listening to and watching what every other person is putting on this platform. That's why I'm so proud of what we put out, I think, and what you put out, Thomas, and like other folks that are doing good stuff on social. Because what you forget is like they're on looking, just like we watched TV shows and we looked up to those people. And at some point, I think a lot of us had those aha moments of like, oh, wait, I don't get to hunt properties like that. There's not just big deer running around all the time. But when you shame people or you say it's not the biggest buck and all of those things that we talk about trying to like go against, the kids are seeing and hearing that stuff all the time. So I have a quote somewhere along the way that I put out on my own personal profile a while back because I listened to Stoic philosophy, and there's a book called The Daily Dad that I listen to every day, and it's like don't be so concerned about like what your kids are like, what are they picking up that you're saying, or like don't worry that they're saying, you worry that they're watching you. Like you're setting an example for them every single day, so be the example. Worry that people are, not that you need to worry that people are watching what you do on social, but like they're watching, like so put out positive stuff. I'll shut up. I'm not making my point really well here, but our caller's from Manitowoc, I think.
Is it the Manitowoc Minute guy?
That'd be interesting. Hey, you're live on the podcast. Who do we got?
Yes, Manitowoc. Rick.
Hey, Rick.
You're hunting with Rick the Peasant.
That's right.
Rick the Peasant. How are you?
Welcome to the show.
I'm fine. I bought 40 acres up in the UP in 1997. And, you get to know the Upers up there, and some of them get, I call it deer hunting disease, really bad.
Interesting.
Jealousy and all that. And this neighbor, the very next door neighbor, they own 240 acres. And before I even settled in, I was parked out in front of the 40, and he comes walking up with his dog, and his dog is just rabid, barking and growling at me and all that. And what are you doing here? He's accusing me of all this stuff. I said, hey, I just bought this 40. And he didn't seem to be very happy about it. Well, later on, I heard he wanted to buy it, But anyways, he walked away, and then a couple weeks later, I was visiting the camp on the other side of my 40, and he shows up. And he says, he comes, sits down, he looks at me, he says, I just want to tell you that
I hate your guts.
If you shoot a deer and it comes on my property, you better ask permission, he says, and be prepared. I might not let you go look for it.
Welcome, neighbor.
Yeah.
Look at him,
thanks for buying that piece of property. By the way, screw you. Yeah, thanks, pal.
How did you respond? I'm curious. I would have been hard pressed to not say same to you, buddy, but I think I would have tried. Well, if you get one, I'll gladly let you come over here. And if you want to crack a beer and celebrate, happy to do that. I wonder if that would have changed his tone.
I was startled. I didn't know what to really say. Afterwards, I bought a 7mm Magnum. Said, well, I'm not going to have a deer go on his property. But anyways,
exactly.
The guy sitting there at the table, at the picnic table there inside the other guy's camp, and he's wearing a Chicago Bears sweatshirt. And the only thing I could think of saying is, and I better not see you in the woods with that sweatshirt on.
That's funny.
That's funny that you called, Rick, because when I made the comment about people complaining about youth season and their bucks getting shot, a lot of that was actually directed towards some comments that I've seen on the UP trail cams Facebook, because there's it is. I mean, there's a lot of people, grown men, whining, bitching, complaining that kids are shooting their deer, and that's just unbelievable to me.
I think they get this deer hunting disease so bad, and then when deer hunting's over, everybody's friends again.
Yeah. It starts September 1.
Barbed wire goes up October 1st.
That's right.
I actually got to know the sheriff of the county up there, and he was telling me some stories, and you just wouldn't believe it. He just shakes his head when he's telling these stories.
Wow.
Yeah, I liken it to a bit like road rage. You forget there's an actual human being on the other side of that.
I do have a bad luck deer story. I don't know. I probably talked too much already.
Nope.
I don't know if you want to hear it.
Well, it depends on how many drinks you've had. Because if you've had a couple, we're happy to hear. But if not, I don't know. No, I'm just kidding. Go ahead. Go ahead.
You got to share it.
Well, I got this big tree just right next to camp where I like hunting out of, and I got to stand 25 feet in the air, and this was back in year 2000 or something, and I never miss. I don't shoot at running deer, so I never miss. And this I got to get this in the right order here. I'm in this stand, and I hear a loud crack above my head, and it scared me. And I look up, and here's two eagles. One is flying one way and one is flying the other. Obviously, they clashed. And that's the weirdest thing. Well, one was an older one with a white head and one was a young one. So I'm thinking, well, maybe the father's kicking the eagle that he raised away from the area now. I didn't know. And a little while later, here come a doe. And she's standing broadside at, 40, 50 yards. And I let her have it. Well, of course, in my defense, back then I had one of those really cheap smoke poles, and it's got the little nipple on the side, and you got to hold it. You hear the crack, you got to keep holding it because bullet don't.
Yep.
That powder doesn't ignite for a little bit of time,
A little delay.
But anyways, it runs off, and I'm thinking that deer's dead. And it's really cloudy, and it gets dark really fast, and there's no stars or anything, and all I have is this little light on my hat, and I'm going to go find it. It's going to be laying here right really close. So, and fortunately there was snow, so I'm following tracks in the snow, and every time there's a brush pile, I stop and I'm looking in that brush pile. It's got to be in there, And I keep walking and I'm turning around in circles, and I'm following this track, and all of a sudden I see this golden shiny color laying on the path that I'm following. So what is that? And I'm looking, I can't believe it. Here it's a sucker fish without a head. It's just the body of the fish. It's like totally fresh.
The eagles.
And I'm thinking, there's a bear.
Run!
And my heart is pounding, and my heart goes up into my throat. And I'm like, I'm just totally shocked and scared. And I'm standing there. I don't know how long I'm going to stand there. It seemed like forever, and finally I kind of snapped out of it and said, geez, I got to get out of here. So I didn't know where I was. I look around with this little light. I know every tree in that 40. I'm looking around. I don't see anything and I recognize. Now I'm even more scared. So then I came to my senses. Well, I just follow my tracks back out. So I'm twisting and turning around. I finally get back out. Then it occurred to me. That's what those two eagles clashed over. One of them must have had that sucker in his claws.
That's wild.
That's really cool.
When you made the comment,
what are the odds of that?
I saw you commented earlier, and I thought you said I thought you were going to tell me they dropped on your head.
Well, I said something like that. I embellished the truth a little bit.
Yeah. That's a great story. Well, I appreciate you calling in with that.
That's cool.
Love it.
Okay. Yep.
Well, thanks, Rick.
Yeah,
have a good one.
Rick. Have a good one.
You're welcome. Thank you.
See ya.
Sorry. Hey, but Thomas, I don't know what to do when we have guests and there's callers. So like you're a guest, but I think it's fun to participate with all of that. I don't know what to do with my hands.
No,
over here.
It's fine.
That's great.
I think that makes y'all's podcast fun.
I enjoyed that story quite a bit.
I was waiting for Donald Trump to jump out of the bushes and tackle the bear. That would have just made it perfect. So.
Oh man. Did you finish your bottle yet? There wasn't much left in there when you started. Where are you at over there?
Yeah, it's pretty gone.
You're pretty calm. Oh yeah, you got a nice healthy pour. Hold that up. That's a lot. Oh shit. Did you just pour it when I said that and just
No, I'm kind of sneaky,
Oh yeah, that's nice.
He's under the camera.
You underestimate my sneakiness. You're gonna be feeling real good.
I also put in 2 Zens, so
my great uncle up at they own the cabin across the street from ours, and I was probably like 14 or 15. We're up there. I think we'd fish during the day, and we're all having a campfire at his place at the cabin. And he says, "Derek, I want to teach you a trick." I'm like, "Okay." So I go over there, and Al's a big drinker. He's like, "When you think you're out of your liquor, just lay the bottle on its side for a couple minutes, and there'll be a little bit more in there." And he's got a bottle laying there. Puts a couple drips. He's like, "Yeah, just wanted to teach you that." I was like, "Thanks, Uncle Al." It's like I'm 14.
It's all good.
That is a special thing for your camp too. Getting a sip of a beer, or a guzzle of this, or whatever. Like nothing overtly like abusive, like Breaking Bad. You remember that scene where he starts pouring him up? Yeah. He's like, "Drink it. He's my kid. Don't
Walter
tell him."
Jr.?
Yeah, and then he starts puking in the pool. That'll probably make its way into the meme land at some point here. Now I'm talking about it, but I'll try to cut out the abusive parts, but it's more lighthearted than that, and it's fun. You feel like, oh, I'm one of the guys now. Well, you grow some hair on your chest. I don't know why you want hair on your chest as a 12-year-old boy, but it sounds great because you're a man now.
Have you ever Windy Peppercorn? I mean, come on.
What's that from? What was that from?
Sandlot.
Sandlot. Thank you. Yeah.
Sandlot.
Yep. The lifeguard. And they eventually got hitched and had lots of babies at the end of that movie.
All right, so I got a hot subject I want to talk about.
I want to hear it.
Let's hear it.
Yeah, you're not nearly as riled up as I normally see on TikTok. We got to get some more.
Well, I just I was just waiting on the hot question, but I'm going to ask you a hot question. What is y'all's view on CWD in the United States?
Ooh, that's a good one. That's spicy.
It is spicy. It's controversial. It pisses a lot of people off.
Because I have a very big opinion on it, but I want to hear y'all's first.
We know it's a thing, right? I mean, it's been around.
Here.
It is a big thing here, especially in the driftless area. The driftless area, I would say, Thomas, it compares to your your area in Virginia where you're going, we're sand bluffs and not mountains, but we're hills there. And there's a large population of deer, a very large population of whitetails.
Yeah.
Very large.
And there's big deer, and there's always been big deer. It's affected it since the 90s. You know, CWD has affected that area of the state since the 90s, and it's popped up in other places, and it's gone away, and it's come back, gone away. It's there to stay once it's there, because it gets into the soil and, you know, whatever. Doug Duran has done a pretty good job of explaining how CWD affects things and in the environment.
And he's got a lot of stats, data. He's got some anecdotal
sure
evidence to show how bad it is. And
but it's always controversial with people that haven't had the experience with it. And if you don't have it, like Doug says, if you don't have it, you don't want it. So if you don't have it, good for you. Great.
Yeah.
But in the areas that have it, they're trying to shoot as many deer as possible. And that pisses a lot of people off, because you're taking away an opportunity to, you know, grow the next world record whitetail or something to that effect. That's just how I see it.
Well, it enters into and we'll air this out and let you have your take on it too, because I'm curious, because at this point I don't know it. I'm not going to fight you over it. It's fine. But I will.
Oh, no. I would never fight you, Eric. I'm scared of you.
I would lose, for the record. I'm a terrible fighter.
I would watch.
Let's just drink some more bourbon and see what happens here.
They'll be hugging later. It's fine.
Yeah. We're friends. What the hell am I talking about? What am I going to say?
CWD.
Oh, yeah. Healthy health. So there's QDMA, quality deer management, and something that I've learned from Doug Duran. So we went up to Doug's farm. Greg and I did to do the doe derby that they do, which is actually going on, I think, this weekend. We're not going to make it.
I'm not going to make it this year.
However, then we went back up and we did a podcast with Doug 2 Januaries ago at his farm, which is kind of cool, because it's like, you've seen this on Meat Eater. This farm has been on the show.
It's iconic.
So we're sitting and we felt like, wow.
Yeah.
We're talking to Doug. Doug's he's a good guy. He's a smart dude. I love to give him shit, because I don't think enough people give him shit because of his.
But he can take it and he can dole it right
which is
back
great.
twice fold.
I really appreciate and I can call him and he'll answer, and we can. I always got to make sure I have enough time in my schedule to talk to Doug, because it's a good long conversation most of the time.
Always.
But I'll ask him questions for things that I'm trying to learn about from a perspective of someone that's, well, no offense, Doug, if you're listening, old as shit, who's been around for a while. And that being said, he told me, Eric, there's QDMA, quality deer management, for people trying to grow healthy deer, and you'll get rid of cull bucks and all this and that. But that's assuming that you're after antlers. And then there's healthy deer management, which is more holistic, which is what the NDA, National Deer Alliance, has been kind of talking about more. And that takes into account areas like CWD that are heavy in the driftless area of Wisconsin, as an example, where the young bucks are the ones that are spreading all of the CWD. And the example
they're the most transient of the species.
Yeah, think about the young 21-year-old at the bar. You're trying to bang every chick, right? Or the young girls trying
to get kicked around and they get moved, and
they're the ones doing all the breeding, by and large. They're spreading it the most. If you kill those bucks, you're likely to stop CWD spread. Now, I'll end with this, and I'll stop talking. If asked the question, would you eat the deer with the CWD meat? Most people say, nah, dog. For that reason, I'll pass. I don't know that I'm comfortable feeding a CW deer to my children or myself. It feels weird. I don't think that there's no reported cases of that shit jump into a human being, but you're also not going to eat a cow with mad cow disease.
And I will add too, like if you end up shooting a buck that's really skinny and not doing very well at a certain time of year, you're kind of going, he doesn't look very well. I mean, you've cut into a deer that very possibly had it, and things just didn't look right in there. You're going, I'm not eating this. There's just
that's no way. That's one of the measurements I'll take against that stance is like, well, would you eat it?
Some people would. They don't care. You know, if you're towards the end of your life, you
people
pass.
won't. Some people
yeah.
won't. And then there's the
we don't want to waste the resource.
But then there's the let's play ignorant and like, I'm not going to test it because I don't want to know. I don't even want to know. I never knew before. It's not even a thing. I'm going to pretend it doesn't exist. I'm going to eat the deer regardless. And I think I could understand that, actually. You got a fish and it's got those black spots. You can eat that fish.
It's edible. Is it good to eat? Probably not.
Right.
Especially
So then
if it's
you're
got
kind of
little
like, you just
yellow
get a little
worms
weird. You get a
growing
little
in its
weird about
meat.
it. I'm like, you know what? I'm not gonna eat this fish. That's how I feel about the CWD deer. I don't know enough about it. It makes me feel gross and uncomfortable. My wife will be like, hard no. She's already weird about venison anyway, so that'll throw her over the edge. So like, that's not gonna happen. So that's all I'll say about it, I suppose.
All right, 20 minutes late.
So we found cases. So in North Carolina, they found their first case 2 years ago, and they've gone very extreme with. They have mandatory testing for all deer killed during certain time periods. And what's happened is we already have a crazy deer population here, but we have no buck to doe ratio. So right now in North Carolina, we're probably 15 does to 1 buck. And that's not an exaggeration. It is awful. And so what was a bad ratio has gotten worse because of the law. Like a lot of people don't have a place they can even drop off their deer within 20 miles. So are you going to do that with a doe, or are you just going to go shoot a buck? Because I think to have a healthy deer population, you have to shoot the right amount of does.
Agreed.
And they can say all they want about young bucks. Well, you got to realize a lot of states have volunteer testing. What gets turned in most during your gun season? Bucks. So of course you're going to see a higher level of bucks that test positive because there's not as many does come in. So I mean, my thing is, I believe in nature. I believe in the fact that EHD is a lot more deadly, a lot quicker. Like we had EHD really bad here, and there hasn't been as many positive cases this year. There's only been 7 in the whole state since it started. So, and my other question is, and this is coming from a guy who's not a biologist, who's not very smart, who's not
same.
It's just kind of looking at it with the goggles. Is this started in Colorado? It's been really big in Wisconsin. I've never heard of somebody walking up to a deer, finding it dead, turning it in, and it testing positive. It's always from a car wreck or a hunter shooting it, or somebody who has a depredation tag who has to turn it in because the state makes them. So like, if it was really doing what they're saying it's doing, why does Colorado still have deer if they found the first case in 1957? I mean, and that's just me thinking outside the box. And like, I follow all the state's rules. If I have to turn it in, I will.
I think Wisconsin looked at as a state that has what would be classified as a program to like mirror to some degree from what I've heard, but we don't know enough about it in this group unless Eric's got some words to say because I haven't heard him talk yet.
I'm just listening, and I got my own.
God gave us 2 years and 1 month for a reason.
Yeah.
Listen
Well, no, I think what Thomas said is nature is nature, and I think what we've seen in Wisconsin, and we've got 2 different things that are happening here. So the areas that are prevalent with CWD are the really good private land areas, like the driftless, where we have a culture of not killing does. A lot of private land, not all, but a lot of private landowners don't want to kill their does because they want the bucks there for the rut. So I think it's gone on for decades where these does are not getting killed. The does are transmitting and having CWD, and bucks are obviously too. But those are the areas where CWD naturally, nature is trying to take care of the carrying capacity. That's what it does. That's why EHD exists in areas with high population. We've created that population by not harvesting a good number of does. But
everyone
the other part
is not the other.
Yeah. And I get that, but like that's your job as a steward of the land. And Doug Duran, I think, would probably argue about that too. The other thing we have going on is we have CWD introduced through deer farms in Wisconsin that has been deer escaping from deer farms from also populated areas of deer that are highly concentrated, and then they spread it. So we got 2 different ways of thinking about it, but I think the one is very preventable. You got to figure out a way to manage does on private land.
Yep.
And it's a hard one.
That's how I got my permission is I'm seeing so many does, and the farmer's just happy to see me shoot all and any does.
Last year you were seeing how many in the field?
There literally would be 30 to 40 deer. I was getting down in a 60-acre field.
Well, and in the area that we're talking about, the driftless, where Doug's coming up with the conversation, maybe it's time to bring Doug back on the show at some point here, but he talks about the gentrification of the land over there, i.e., it's almost all bought up by people that are out of state.
Yeah.
They're Illinois residents that own private and drift lists that are trophy hunting and therefore not taking any does. So what Doug's doing with like what the doe derby is, as an example, is he's got enough private land permission to bring people that don't own the land onto the private to go kill a bunch of does, because the people that own the land aren't doing it because they only want the deer to put on their wall. No offense, basement decorator. But like that's a problem, right? Like it's a bunch of people out of state that bought up land to trophy hunt it, that aren't here to manage it, maintain it, take care of it. They're certainly not shooting does because they're not trying to get their hands dirty gutting a doe. They don't want the
50
meat.
Deer.
It's a totally different ideology. So it's good that there's a local, like someone that influential like Doug, that's bringing people into the area and
he does a good job of it, and he's trying to do more with sharing the land and getting people into hunting, and he's a great conservationist.
But yes, CWD, when I was in high school, 2004, I was in some debate class. This is a long time ago now. This is like, what, 20 years ago, essentially? Not essentially, it's 24 years ago.
Exactly. About 20 years ago.
I didn't want to mention that until it came out of my mouth, and I was like, damn it, here we are. I stepped in.
I'm 03.
Yeah, so anyway, I did a debate
on
CWD, and back then it was like, this is a conspiracy theory. There was like all this talk about the DNRs just trying to like raise like all this stuff, and I remember at the conclusion of all of it, all this like academic research I'd done as a bullshit high schooler, because I cared about this topic as a deer hunter, even in high school. It just felt like there's this bottomless pit of information you can sift through, and it's hard to formulate an opinion. Like, but to Derek's point, I think I can like agree with the holistic nature of it.
I do
more so than anything. Like if it's been around for a long time. To your point, though, there have been deer here in Wisconsin that have been identified alive with CWD
near roads,
like,
walking in circles.
Yeah, that's
in fact,
one was not good.
One was taken, and Doug posted it on his Instagram and Facebook accounts.
It was in a ditch. It was just like
it was just a zombie of a deer,
and
the guy shot it, and they brought it in, and Doug did what Doug does, and he pulled the nodes out of it and sent it in, and lo and behold, it tested positive.
I think getting data is good. I don't think there's a problem with getting data.
Help the DNR out. I mean, there's enough people that probably listen to this that hate the DNR. They want to bash them every chance they get, and they will, because they're keyboard warriors, and that's fine. But help the DNR out.
Mitch Baker's watching, man. Mitch knows a lot about
Mitch
and his wife.
That's like
they're like
the next best thing.
They know. They
know 100%.
That opens up. Sorry, go ahead, Thomas.
I have two things that I wish. So if you're a CWD state, this is something I wish all the DNRs would do. Make it easier to donate a doe. Make it easier to use that doe, and you would get a lot more testing done at those donation stations. So you can feed the hungry, and then if it's positive, you get a positive. The other thing I wish they would do is, since it sounds like every state has the same issue. We have too many does, not enough bucks. I really like North Carolina. We have a 2-month gun season. It's insanity, and people still don't shoot does.
No, because they the trophy.
What are they
don't
understand
like, what the meat quality is out of a doe. It's great.
No, and like people are going to look at me and go, "Well, you've been chasing this one deer, blah blah blah." The last week of the season, I'm going to get all my doe tags filled. It'll be done in one night. But
that's what I did.
Go on to kill mode.
Honestly, it's what I did.
Yeah.
It's like it's getting to be end of the season.
Yeah,
I'm not seeing that buck. That buck's not coming.
Well, there's controversy around when to shoot a doe based on breeding cycles and rut and so forth too.
I want to hear Thomas's other idea too.
Well, so I think they're putting, like in North Carolina, they're putting a lot of burden on the hunter to, drive that extra 30 minutes to go, they have to do the donation. So they're making the hunter think, well, I don't want to shoot that doe because I don't want to do it. So I wish that all the states would implement during archery season an earn a buck program.
We had
where you have to shoot 2 does to get a buck tag.
That helps.
And I think it would help tremendously. I mean, because you become a better hunter by shooting does. I would much rather deal with a buck 20 feet in a stand than an old doe. I hate old does. They are the worst at picking you out in a tree stand of any deer in the woods. And it makes you a better hunter all around. So
that's really interesting that you mentioned that, Thomas, because I was just thinking about an instance about the earn a buck. I've always been kind of a proponent, I guess, of the earn a buck, because I think it's the only way you can semi-control private landowners into getting them to shoot does, even though you really can't. I think that's like the most effective way. Because I'm not going to name names here, but we used to have contact with an outfitter in the Driftless area who was a very renowned guy. And for an outfitter in Wisconsin who's got clients coming from all over paying top dollar for a hunt in one of the world-class best areas, they had to earn a buck. So these guys coming in had a 5, 6, 7 day hunt and they had to shoot a doe. So what this outfitter had been doing was driving them all to a farm in a different county.
Oh shit.
And shooting does, which did the, that is not at all what it was intended for. Yeah, it's harvesting does, but like the area that was the CWD area. So like the guys who don't want to shoot does are still going to figure out ways to not
I've never heard of that. That's interesting.
And this isn't, this was lots of guys, right? Like, so
here's my I have to tell you, Thomas, I commend you because a lot of people like to bitch, piss, and moan, complain for the sake of just that all in and of itself. I really appreciate that you said, here's my thing. And wow, wouldn't it be great if we could do this or that? And you came with 2 ideas. As a whatever. I remember one boss that I had a long time ago goes, you ever have a problem? If you come to me without a solution, I'm going to send you right back. No, 1 to 2 solutions before you come to me, because I can't solve all your problems. You need to like think through to a certain degree, and then I'll help you. And maybe you'll solve it before you even get to me. Like the fact that you're thinking through, it's productive. It's not just for fodder. So like, I got to say, man, thank you for just having.
Well, and here's my fear. So last year was the first year that we had CWD in North Carolina with regulations. There was 5 counties that they called the CWD counties. The harvest report was down 4,200 in just 5 counties. And I was talking to a lot of the local processors this year, and they're just not seeing the amount of deer that they've really ever seen in years past. So my fear is that because of, I think the DNRs do the best they can to try to educate people on it, but let's be real.
They do more than deer. They do everything,
Yeah. Well, they do, but look, I think deer probably sells more licenses than most other things. If we're being honest, but I bet you all of us have eaten a deer that had CWD and didn't know it.
It's very possible.
That's what I'm wondering.
And not that any of us would do it if we knew that they had it, but I think if you have a volunteer system, but also build in something where, like we said, earn a buck. But my biggest fear is there are a lot of people in North Carolina, like our license sales are way down from 2 years ago. And the people are stopping hunting because they don't know what they don't know. They just read on the internet, CWD. Like the other day, the DNR put a message out. There was a case found on the western part of the state. It was the first case found on the western part. And they said, deadly deer disease found in Franklin County.
And that's
a media problem.
That's a media problem.
That's not a CWD problem. That's
a
problem.
Yeah. No, and that's the thing. Like, I'll be honest, like some of and I'll just say it, I don't care. Some of the game wardens here don't like me. And I know that they watch my stuff under fake accounts and they try to find me doing something illegal, and I don't. I follow every law that they put out. And it's because they feel like I speak out against this and I'm just like trash talking it. I'm not. Like, I love this. I love hunting. It is part of me. I want it to be part of what my sons do. And I have this fear that if we keep going down this road and they act like it's just this deadly deer disease, that people are just going to quit. And I hate that.
Well,
I absolutely hate that.
I think you can look at, anything that's occurring in modern time, it's assumed that it's an isolated event. The fact that this dates back to 1980 for what Mitch had said, or if you go back to 1950s, to what you were talking about, this has been something we've dealt with as a country, state, community, whatever you want to call it, in some way, shape, or form. So because it's a part of history, if you could look back at the Wisconsin example of the early 2000s, late 90s, you get a sense for exactly what happened and how it went. And here we are today. We're still here. Like, you know what I mean? So like I'm softening the blow a little bit of the concern you have. I think it'll have an impact, but just like stocks, things ebb and flow. And that's one component, though. There's so many things that us hunters have to worry about that could take our heritage away. This is one of them.
I can kind of stir this pot of meat just a little bit. I can guarantee you that most of us,
the love meat.
I can tell you that most of us have probably consumed some CW meat CWD meat at some point, some way, shape, or form.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody takes their stuff to the butcher. The butcher uses the same
touch
equipment. If it's CWD or not, prions stick to the equipment. It gets in the meat. It ends up getting there. So
there's a reason not go to the butcher and learn how to do it yourself.
Right.
But maybe you have a CWD deer and you don't even know. Like
it might be too little, too late anyway.
Yeah.
So whatever.
You know, we could do something about it starting next year. It's probably a little late this year. We could, you know, how we had that TikTok deer hunting or turkey hunting competition in the spring that yours truly won, by the way. But
humble brag.
We should start something next year, like get some other people that have somewhat of a following behind it, and just say, hey, let's all try to use all our doe tags.
I use
and you know, and like put something on it. We could all throw in a hat, you know, from whatever our respective brand is, and you know, the first person to get all their doe tags gets a hat from everyone or something like that. You know, just something dumb.
I dig it. I like
it's not dumb. It's for a cause. Let's do our job as conservationists and hunters.
Mm-hmm.
Let's fill our doe tags as much as it might pain you to do so. Do it. You won't be the guy bitching about poor quality meat at the end of the day.
It
get them
comes
tested,
down.
Don't get them tested.
You kill a hot doe, you just kill the decoy right in front of you.
It's fine.
All the bucks
There'll be another one there to replace.
We got another caller in, and I'm happy to bring him on. It's Calder. You're live on the show, Calder. We're running into the 7-ish hour, so we'll keep her moving here. But what do you got, buddy?
Hey, how you guys doing tonight? Can you hear me okay?
Yes, loud and clear.
Very clear.
Good. Okay, I'm trying out some headphones tonight, so it's a little more clear.
Sounds very intimate.
Yeah. You guys hear me okay?
Okay. Well, I could take them out of it.
No, we like it.
Take something else off. No,
okay. I'm just hanging out in the garage here, having some brews and listening to the podcast.
All right.
What are you wearing?
I don't know. I guess I'd
turning red. I can feel him blushing.
A message of hope to Thomas. I don't know. It reminded me. I was just listening to the Meat Eater podcast, and they had the Cornell Lab of Ornithology people on, but they were talking about CWD for a little bit there. And I guess, you know, I don't know. I'm not too much into it, but a few years ago, I guess, you know, they found some cases and eradicated it pretty quickly, supposedly. So I've never seen a deer or anything acting crazy like that up here in upstate New York. I'm up here just east of Lake Ontario, Thomas, by the Adirondack Mountains. So, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of farmland out here, and people shoot a lot of deer. They're kind of almost seen as a nuisance out of here. A lot of vehicle accidents out here and whatnot. So a lot of deer get shot. I've heard of farmers shooting, you know, 10, 15, 20 does and letting them lay just, you know, to guard their crops and whatnot. Yeah, go ahead.
No, we were just responding to the dead doe in the field.
Yeah, it's a lot, you know, and it sounds like a waste too. And it's, you know, it's for me, for somebody that goes out and hunts. So up here in New York, I get 5 to 6 tags every year, depending on the rifle season lottery doe tags. But I get 2 bow muzzleloader tags, and then hopefully 3 rifle tags, 1 buck and 2 doe. But, you know, I look at does as, you know, freezer fillers, just like that, meat. And, you know, I hunt bucks. I love to shoot a buck, but I'm not going to pass up on a decent buck or a little buck because, you know, I'm waiting for a rack, or I'm just out there for the adventure and to shoot them.
Well, you did a track hunt, man, that I think you posted in the Shooter Buck Club, and that's a really unique style of hunting. You're like basically the next Hal Blood on the up and coming list here. Like, that's pretty freaking crazy to have done that. And
there's something about that style of hunting though that's just so awesome and fun.
Seems very romantic.
It is.
I don't mean romantic in a sexual way. I mean like romanticism in like
you mean it how you mean it.
Yeah, you said it already. You already dropped the bomb. But anyway.
Yeah, we've already been. Yeah, okay. We got all red in the face again.
Yeah, and honestly, that style of hunting, you know, I've lived here all my life near the Adirondack Mountains, and there's really 6 million acres of public land that, you know, they say you're a public landowner, and so, you know, it's intimidating to try to get out there and just overcome that task and try to shoot a wild Adirondack buck. But I got out, I got a little courage. I actually was planning on going out the day before, and we got dumped on with a foot of snow. So I woke up and had to clear my driveway, had to clear my neighbor's driveway, a couple older ladies. And then by the time that happened, the day was kind of out of reach for getting out to hunt. But the following day, I ended up getting out and started out about 9:30, put in about 5.8 miles, ended up being about 6.5 hours. Time just flies though when you're out there in nature, you're walking around. It's just, you're out in God's country. And so time flies. But I ended up talking about missed opportunities earlier.
Way to bring it back.
I ended up missing the biggest buck I've ever seen alive on the hoof. It was 36 yards away. It was with a doe. I was walking on the side of a mountain in the big woods, caught their track going up in elevation and followed it. And then I got a whiff of buck bed just right in the face. And I knew they were close. So I tracked him about 15, 20 more yards to a little ridge and peeked over it. And I actually filmed the doe that he was with for a little bit. And then I noticed him, and then I tried to get a shot on him, but it was, it's pretty thick brush up there. So he got away, and I kept tracking. And then on my way out to the vehicle, I stumbled across a track that was breaking out of the woods that cut across my tracks going into the woods. And the track was going the same way I was. So I followed it for about 50 or 60 yards. And I peeked around the corner of a big pine tree, and this buck was just standing there broadside 18 yards away, looking right at me. I saw he had horns, and my heart just started thumping.
Let's go.
So I pulled up the 30-30 to my shoulder, and I let a round fly right into his rib cage. And I racked another round and just watched him, and he ran probably 30 yards and then just started wobbling and fell over. But
that's a cool.
It was
just when you start partying like a rock star right there.
Yeah. Party like a rock star. That's crazy.
Yeah, and I was out there all alone, and so I realized, the work just started as soon as I killed that buck. I had the drag and the gut and everything, but it worked out good. And I got out, and there were some people that I had met on the way in that were on the way out that had hunted in there for years, and they're all veterans, and they couldn't believe I got a buck. And so that was fun to just have people excited for me. And shout out to you guys too, just for always being encouraging. And
we love seeing people
a great
have
time.
Success. It's very awesome to see, especially when we're not having, at least somebody's having success.
Sounds like a hell of a day, Calder.
Yeah.
Congrats. That's awesome.
Yeah. It was a great time. But just to a note of positivity for Thomas there, the CWD thing, I think the thing to do really is to combat that negative media with just positive social media. Use your voice, whatever you got, get out there, tell your community, spread the word. Hunters are a big community, and we can take on a lot of big challenges too. So I think just keep a positive outlook on the CWD issue, and push ahead and make your voice be heard on your thoughts.
I think what Calder just said is the key, and that's what I was kind of maybe mentioned before. Like Thomas, instead of just sitting around and complaining or coming up with the problem like most people, putting the blame on DNR or they do this, they do that. That's so easy to do. That's the armchair quarterback, the keyboard warrior.
The DNR can only do so much. They have to enforce the laws.
It's on us.
It's on us to do the harvesting and
they're public.
If you believe in antler point restrictions, you better be passing deer. If you believe there's too many does, you better be going to areas and hunting in areas that have too many and taking them out. Like you're the person who's going to make the difference.
Be the change you seek to make in the world.
Yeah, well, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely, Gandhi.
Caller, we got another caller behind you, and I really am glad you called in.
Guys.
But We'll give
Have
you.
a good
buddy.
night.
We'll get you on for
Absolutely.
your own
Keep
episode.
listening.
Congrats on
Good-
that buck
good to
call.
talk to you.
Congrats, man.
Thanks,
We'll
buddy.
talk soon.
You know what? Tomorrow night I'm going to shoot every doe I see. I promise you.
You do. Hey, okay, so this one's for you. This one's for you, Thomas. So our next caller is Mitch Baker, who lives in the Driftless, who's somewhat of a thought leader on CWD,
and a good friend too.
Yes, I've hunted with Mitch personally. We've had some really good dialogue on a nice ridge top during the Doe Derby 2 years ago, I think. Mitch, you're live on the show, buddy. What you got?
Hey, how you guys doing?
Good, buddy.
Well, we're
Good. How are you?
getting into the bourbon. So
How
we're
was
doing
your
good.
trip to Montana?
It was fantastic.
Awesome.
Got my dad on a real nice mule deer.
Sweet.
Mitch is a lot older than me and in better shape than
I have never killed a muley.
None of us in this room have you?
No, I haven't.
Elk, but not a muley.
Not a muley. Yeah, so that's a pie in the sky
Are
dream.
you
Yeah,
saying
it was-
Millie or Muley?
It was a lot of fun. It was great.
It's awesome.
Have some more of this. But anyway, Mitch, what do you know?
Well, I figured since you're talking about CWD, I'd call in because I have opinions on that.
You certainly do. You certainly do. And you live in the heart of
Um,
CWD country, so let's hear it.
Yeah. And well, we've been testing, and obviously I pull lymph nodes for everybody, and I don't think it's the case that we get more bucks in than does, really. So I don't think that's an issue as far as why the prevalence seems to appear in bucks more. But the previous caller mentioned, how New York, and on Meat Eater, they talked about how they kind of squashed it out in New York. And that is basically what we tried to do in Wisconsin when they first found it, but it was probably a little bit late. And that's just target the area that has it. And that's why after the first year of finding it, they tested 40,000 animals. So they could try to target where to, thin the herd, basically. And that's sort of what Illinois did when they found it at the exact same time. And they've done a pretty good job at keeping the percentages low. They've just taken a different route than Wisconsin did, right across the border from the same, kind of the same herds. And that's what Illinois has done in the last 20 years, is just when they find some cases, they focus more targeted hunting in those areas. And it seems to have, sorry, I'm babysitting. My daughter is just screaming at me.
Well, that's not babysitting. That's parenting, my friend.
Parenting, yeah. That was
my son might have a
bath.
broken foot apparently tonight, so waiting to hear the results on.
Well, and Mitch, let me just preface kind of what I said earlier. So in North Carolina, the only mandatory testing dates are November 4th through November 27th.
Oh, you got to be kidding me.
So that would be a buck heavy time.
Yeah, so that's during the rut. So that's when you're, because voluntary and back it up a little bit more. I don't know what your percentages are where you're talking about, but here the percentage is less than like 0.01% of deer tested. We've only had 7 cases in the whole state. So it just seemed all I was saying is they put a lot of burden on the hunter for a very, very low percentage. So.
Yeah, that's certainly the case in places like that. And it's tricky, especially at the beginning. And I think like you guys talked about it, the burden should be on the hunters to try to protect the resource, because the burden's on the DNR. They want to do the things, but it's up to the hunters to step up and do those things. The DNR can't do things without the hunters cooperating. And most of the things, like we used to have earn a buck, what happened to earn a buck here was enough hunters complained to legislators that the legislature in Wisconsin took it away from the DNR's toolkit. So now the DNR can't implement it at all without the legislature's approval. So that's something that basically hunters took away from the DNR to manage deer. And it seems like those are the things that tend to happen here. The DNR gets handcuffed by essentially hunters who don't like the concept. They don't like CWD because the consequence of CWD is they don't get to do everything that they want the way they want to do it. And that goes along with harvesting does and the like. So it's really tough for the DNR to do anything without hunters actually being handed with them. So
and please don't take this as me arguing with you. So just please don't take this as me arguing with you, because that's not who I am and that's not what I'm about. Because I do believe that it's an issue, but like where I live, if I go hunt a county next to me, I literally can't bring the deer home to process it. I'm supposed to debone it in the woods. So counteractively, there are people not killing deer.
That would be a challenge.
Because you can't take the deer home to process it. And is it, I would rather them do something like, if you take it home to process it, you also have to take the bones back to where you got them from and bury them, which I would be on board with that.
Yeah, or like the dumpsters that we have.
Yeah, we're lucky, and we have the ability. We have programs. We have a dumpster program, which Mitch and Liz actually really worked very hard to get implemented here in the state, and along with a couple of other really key players like our friend Doug Duran. We have, like, in my town at my DNR station, I have a dumpster. If that one's gone, I have a public hunting grounds right across the border, the county border from me, from 10 miles away. Goose Lake, I can go put bones there too. I can dump my carcasses there. So that's what makes it better. But Thomas, you're saying
it's so new there that they probably don't have the infrastructure.
They don't have the infrastructure. They have no way of really dealing with the situation at all.
And what's a little bit, I get what Mitch is saying. It's on the hunter to do the the voluntary testing and bring it in, and that's absolutely right. It's a little bit sucks because maybe the ship has already sailed, but we had a perfect system in place to counteract that, and it was in-person registration.
Yeah,
where you had to bring it in to be registered, and many times there's, like, on a popular weekend like Wisconsin's Gun Opener, there would be attendants there who would take samples. And that was wonderful. But I get yes, it is, and that required a lot of manpower. I get that, but if that was a great
enough
system
people
to help.
But now there's enough people that are willing to volunteer with
to help. Yeah.
Well, for instance, I hunt in Texas. It's my favorite state to hunt in. Do you know that Texas doesn't even make you call in your tag? Every year, they don't even know how many deer were killed in the state.
Well, there's a lot.
I'm sure.
Like you get 3 buck tags and you get 3 doe tags as an out-of-state hunter. And I could use all 6 tags and I don't have to call anyone. The only thing I have to do is, if I take it to a processor or a taxidermist, I have to wrap the tag around the antler, but there is no checking it. So, and the reason I bring that up is Texas now has CWD. So you got a state full of hunters that have done it a certain way for a period of time. And I'm certain now they're going to be asked to start doing testing. And I think the reason that hunters don't play along and they push back is, whenever you do something that is mandatory, we are a group of people that does not like mandatory.
Yeah, there's some psychology to that for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because a lot of us are Second Amendment guys. A lot of us are that way of thinking. So whenever we hear a government entity tell us that we have to do something, it is human nature for that person to push back. And I think if they were volunteer systems or just made it easier, like for instance, I'll give my state a little bit of credit. At the processors now, they are paying processors $20 a deer to pull the sample. So every deer that comes to the processor is getting sampled.
Yep.
But the worst part is, like Greg talked about, they're all going through the same grinders. The sample, so I killed a doe back in October 10th. I still don't know the results.
Because they haven't gotten to it yet.
They haven't gotten to it yet.
Yeah.
So my results probably within a month, maybe less.
Yeah, I still don't know the results. So,
Mitch, you're still
tough.
there. What do you I don't know if there's any other additional thoughts.
Tough.
It's a complex topic. It just is.
Yeah.
We're further along because
you brought up the idea of the state paying processors to take deer in, and then those go to the food pantries. That's a program that we have here in Wisconsin, but the processors don't like that because they have to wait for the CWD results before they process those deer.
I see.
So then they're working around those deer for a week and a half, whatever it takes to get the results back. And so we had processors in my county that were part of that donation program, but they all got out of it because that slows down their process. And that makes it tough. So we have that process in the state. It just
process.
It's not effective. It's not effective.
It's not enough money apparently for the processors to do it.
Well,
to deal with the trouble.
It's not enough money.
So.
We're not efficient enough at our testing yet. We're suffering from deficiency of efficiency.
So Mitch, I have a question. When a process,
like 4 or 5 days as far as testing goes for me getting mine back.
Thomas is going to ask what I'm asking. Go ahead, Thomas.
So when a processes a deer, does the state pay the processor to do that?
Yes.
So I have a perfect solution.
I don't know how much it is.
I have a perfect solution. And I hope the DNR is listening to this in North Carolina. Pay me $30-$40 to process and then take to a food bank and donate. And also part of that is I have to turn in the nodes. I mean, it's not hard to pull the nodes. I mean, anyone can do it. So if they would start a program where they
$30-$40 off your processing fees, which have gone up. So if you're going to
but I'm just saying, like, if I process it myself, which I used to do all my deer, but now I can't bring my deer home unless I get it all muddy and cut it up and debone it in the woods. If I was allowed to bring my deer home, turn in the nodes, process the deer, donate it to somebody who's in need, and they sent me $40, guess what? I would do it all day.
Mitch, do you know? So the program you'd mentioned about the processors getting paid by the state, having to house that meat until the CWD test comes back. If the test comes back positive, is that meat just disposed of?
I imagine so, because I don't think the DNR wants to be part of putting that meat into the food banks.
But is that
positive?
Is that what's happening for sure?
That's the way the program's supposed to operate, as far as I understand it.
That makes sense.
Like that process is supposed to leave it hanging until
goes back to would you eat it?
Back. They get the results back. If they're negative, then they process it and send it to the food banks.
Yep, that makes sense. I was just curious if you had a different.
Yeah, that's my understanding.
Well, I appreciate what you're doing, Mitch, because I truly believe that you're just trying to preserve hunting, and I am for that. I just think that sometimes the marketing around CWD and the way it gets broadcast to hunters gets a little misconstrued.
Get some good attention out of it. That's part of the problem. They put a fear-mongering headline out, and it gets a bunch of clickbait traffic. They get their views and ratings and so forth. And unfortunately, it has a negative impact. But if you're,
we've hunted with Mitch.
Yeah, I agree.
He's one of us, as far as I'm concerned.
I think he's better than us.
He loves hunting just as much as the rest of us. So
I'm the same as you guys.
I don't know, Mitch. You're pretty fit.
Which I love to hear, because the biologists here, most of them don't hunt. So
yeah, we're fortunate that we have some biologists that do hunt here. and we got people that care.
Thomas, honestly, I gotta say, man, I didn't expect this topic coming out of this podcast with you.
This is
I
great.
thought we were gonna just get trashed.
Yeah.
Like
no, this is
no.
good.
I have a lot of different sides. So
this is a side I've not seen. This is a really
you're
good...
aware. I mean, we all have to be aware. That's most of the battle. And if you're not aware, if you're just going to dismiss it as well, it's a hoax. It's a bunch of crap.
But I think like, look, it doesn't change how I hunt. It doesn't change. I'll never stop hunting because of CBD. I'm not one of the hunters that's going to be impacted by a negative message.
Me.
That being said, I'm always happy to provide testing because I think I'm a believer in data. I love making data informed decisions as a marketer. So like if they're trying to solve a problem, let's give them some more data. I don't see anything wrong with that part of it.
No.
I'm willing to take a couple extra steps out of my, quote unquote drive or process or whatever I'm doing to ensure that that's happening. So like, I think that's fine. I'm nervous.
I turned in 5 deer last year from that property. I turned in another 4 this year.
9. Look at that.
So 9 deer, and
I
would assume that they're going to be negative just like last year's, but you never know.
Yeah.
There's a lot of deer in that area.
But do you wait to eat them?
Yeah, they're all packaged up and just waiting, and I do them all in freezer paper because it's cheaper than doing them in vacuum bags.
I want to know, so I
wait.
I don't wait. I mean, like I'd be waiting forever on North Carolina, so I've already eaten it.
Tenderloins are different.
Tenderloins are a different story, maybe.
I mean, all my deer were very fat and healthy, so I don't predict that they're going to be a problem there.
Yeah,
you never know.
Now, Mitch, thanks for calling into the hotline here.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, appreciate it, Mitch.
Conversation, guys. I appreciate it.
When you're willing to take a drive to Oconomowoc again, you let me know. You're welcome anytime.
Yeah, we need to have you on again.
Yeah, well, I'm open.
All right,
sometimes.
Bud.
All right, I'll talk to you soon.
Talk soon.
Appreciate it, guys. Have a good night.
I appreciate you calling in, even though you're watching the kids and wanted to give some good information. So that was good. Thank you, Mitch.
It's a little juggling act. Normally there's 2 of us here at night, but not tonight.
We know it's challenging. Thank you.
We know the challenge. See you, buddy.
Part of our lives. Have a good one.
You
See ya.
Well,
and for the record, I am on to the second bottle. So
you've gone to the
solving the world's problems. One bourbon.
I've gone to the rock gut whiskey. So.
Yeah, I know you're gonna be live on TikTok tonight. Maybe you'll catch me live when I'm producing this.
Episode.
Yeah. Getting primed for
I tend to come down to the studio at night to work, and it's
yes.
We got some red stag up here I haven't tapped into yet. That's an interesting
one. Oh, that's good shit. That's good shit.
Yeah, it's up there. It's up there on the shake. Don't touch the bar. It might fall. It hasn't yet.
That is a sketchy looking pallet bar.
Very worried about
It's gonna fall.
Hey, grab that off there. No, you can. I'm not.
I'd love to lighten the load, but
but
I have a very
so I got to tell y'all, Wisconsin's on my bucket list. So
hey,
you're
come on
welcome
over,
anytime.
Come on up.
We'll point you in the wrong direction for sure. Not because we're
I can show you where deer aren't.
Yeah, that's what
we think you guys are gonna laugh at this. I've never hunted public land in my life.
Ooh.
Really? No shit. Hey.
No, I mean I have 22,000 acres of private land to hunt. Why would I in public?
Yeah, there's no
I
reason.
wouldn't either.
I'll tell you what though.
But if you're sharing that 22,000 acres with several other hunters, it might as well be public.
How did you get access to this 22,000 acres?
Well, let me go through this. So I have 1,800. No, I have 2,200 in North Carolina, and I manage with another guy all the leases. And then, so I'm in sales. My buddy sells insurance. We meet a lot of old people. Our first question is, do you have land?
and you murder them.
Yeah. So if they do have land, we're like, okay, we'll pay you X amount for each acre. And then, so I go to Missouri, I hunt 200 acres there. I've got a really good friend who owns that 200 acres. And then I've got 8,000 acres in South Texas. My cousin owns that ranch. And then I have 11,000 acres that I paid in to be a part of the lease in West Virginia. And there is 19 hunters on that 1,100 acres or 11,000.
I was going to ask what you did for a living, which you answered that question.
That actually isn't terrible for the amount of acreage per hunter. That's decent spread out.
Yeah, and the cool thing about West Virginia is all the land is owned by either oil companies, tree companies, or coal companies. So you can get a lease in these bow-only counties for like $1 an acre.
Wow.
So it's super cheap. I only paid $900 to be a part of that lease. So
Good deal.
That's not a bad deal at all.
Yeah.
This is off topic of anything we've talked about tonight, but well, not necessarily. You talked about a target buck and how that's miserable. Did any of y'all watch, including you, Thomas, the Seek 1 200?
Oh,
did you guys watch that was insane.
His dedication and his obsessiveness
Could not do
screams
it.
Worth the watch.
No.
Could not do it.
Worth the watch. I don't know how the hell he did that thing.
Well, he created a lot of issues for himself because did y'all see when the cell cam went off and he was like, "It's walking this way"?
Yeah, I thought the exact same.
Yeah.
And then a couple minutes later, here it comes. That was like yep, here we go.
Well, and the rumor, I don't know this to be true, so I'm not going to say it's 100% fact, but the rumor is this buck is like super well known in that area. And like people would like take selfies with it, is what I heard. So
I haven't heard that. The conversation.
I don't.
Last year?
Oh. Sorry.
I thought Greg had a steel trap, but I guess he doesn't.
I guess I wasn't paying attention to what those guys were doing because there's so many other people out there doing things.
All I got to say is like the concept of a target buck, going all in, so on and so forth, yada, yada. But like the ability to like, it's X amount of miles away. And this, like, how the hell are you?
Yeah.
And that's where like people's bitches about cell cams is.
Well, no, not even cell cam. There was in some cases he just like went to other areas.
Yeah.
And like how the like.
Well, you know how he does it. He's not married. He doesn't have a girlfriend.
This is the tactic. This is the tactic that we talk about once in a while.
Yeah.
Most people talk about tactics. The tactic is if you have time to devote, you will be more successful.
He has
100%.
You don't have the time.
If none of us had to work a regular job,
and this guy doesn't,
to maintain life, and we could just go and hunt and go and fish and
that's
be happy,
the advantage he actually has.
Then we would be super successful.
But the advantage is Lee is still an insanely driven guy. I'm not taking anything away from him.
It will also drive you to be better every time.
Yes.
And
he's
you
amazing.
Will hone your skill set much faster.
That's why he's killing 200s every year.
Yes.
Yeah, he's compounding interest in hunting. Like he's
100%.
He's a league above because time, dedication, skill.
He's got it all.
And with all of that, he gets better and better and better.
Yeah.
Like,
and I feel like he's a really good person.
He's a good person. That's what Bill said about him. Bill, he's like, you know what? Fuck Lee, because he's mad because he's such a good person.
He seems like such a great guy, and then you talk to him, and he is a great guy.
Better than you.
Yeah,
it's just a nice.
But it was a cool.
Nice guy.
I enjoyed watching it. I watched it late night. That was one of the reasons I said I was working. So I brought the laptop out, literally on my lap on the couch in the front room, and I was like, I'm gonna put this on. And then I eventually slowly closed the laptop and stopped working. Push it off to the side. I was like, I was all in on watching that shit.
Yeah. Oh, it was incredible.
It was cool. It was a cool story. The way he like got the story out of it was, I don't know how you capture all that to make that story. That's a whole nother challenge in of itself. On top of the challenge that you're doing, to document that was like stupid good. So anyway, that's a whole nother league of all of that shit.
Yeah. So Thomas, if you don't want to chase 200-inch deers in people's backyard, we can invite you out to No Private, to Wisconsin Public. You can come join us. Wisconsin Public is interesting, though.
Yeah,
like,
I mean, there's
always potential for good deer on Wisconsin Public. There is.
So in Missouri, there's CRP everywhere. So I guess that's kind of similar. But
look at the screen.
CRP is a bit more
different.
Rick the Pheasant, I'm here to tell you, unlimited time hunting hasn't made me much better. Maybe next year.
Guy can have goals, Rick. Guy can have goals.
Yes, Rick.
That's a closing statement right there. How do people find you, Thomas the Train?
So basement decorator on Instagram. On TikTok, it's basement_decorator because TikTok's weird. It is, but no, I've also got a YouTube page, Basement Decorator, and I just try to put, I think Eric's probably shocked at how serious I've been, but I try to keep it a good mix of serious, funny. I love hunting and I like to have fun while doing it, and like to celebrate with whiskey. So,
cheers, man. Well, thanks again for being here. We'll end the live broadcast. We'll keep you on for a minute. I'll end the whatever. I don't know, Instagram. And I don't know. Go follow Basement Decorator. He's a good dude. Most of his content's pretty damn entertaining. This is the serious side of Basement Decorator that I did not know existed until this show. I wasn't prepared.
You should have challenged me to a shotgun or something.
Maybe. I mean, you drank enough bourbon, so I figured we'd be in a new territory here. But when you come to Wisconsin, we'll happily host you.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right,
Cool.
man. Well, thanks everybody that tuned in. We got one more to go for this calendar year, so stay tuned for next week. It'll get weird
because it won't